Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. We are back here and we've got a lot going on. As you guys can see, I have a frame with a bunch of wires, and I made the decision to upgrade some of the internals on both of these Jeeps. I knew I wanted to on 4441, and I wasn't going to on 4433, but just to get some newer parts in there, brand new stuff, at least newer parts. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the DCC and sound off of the old frame and basically just putting them over on the new frame, and then we're good to go. We got newer LEDs, newer motor, newer running gear, new wheels. All that's going to be cool and good and brand new. I already do have one of the frames done swapping around. Just wanted to kind of see what I had to deal with before doing a video. Since I am doing two of these, I'm able to kind of see what I'm in for and then explain some of the stuff that I'm dealing with here. For the most part, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. These panels have these pins in them, and literally that's the only difference between the panels. The panels themselves have no difference. The only difference is what you plug onto the panel. Now, of course, this is the DCC insert, and then I guess I can show you both here. So here we have the DC and then the DCC. So definitely a lot more going on the DCC side of things, as you would imagine. But literally the panel itself is exactly the same on these locomotives. There's nothing different at all. Some of the resistors are the same on the bottom, or all of the resistors are the same on the bottom. The pin plugs are all the same. Nothing is different. The only difference is what you plug into it. So that kind of makes it really nice that I don't have to replace the entire panel. I just have to take out the DC insert and plug in the DCC insert. Now, of course, this is the DC one, but on this one here, I want to, use this whole frame. I want everything new. These are all new, unused, unrun parts, and all I have to do is pull this off and put that in its place, and then bam, that gives me a frame fully running with DCC and sound. Well, DCC, the sound part's the hard parts, and I'm gonna kind of show you guys what I'm dealing with here. So I've already dealt with this on the other one. Access to the speaker is very annoying on these, and I'm not talking annoying in the sense of there's a lot to get to it. The speaker itself is right here. The wires right here. This is the shitty part, because this plug right there does not fit through that little hole. And I'll show you what I had to wind up doing. Well, it's just one cover on the side. These frames are kind of, or the weights itself that hold everything, kind of unique on how all this works. I've never taken these apart before today, so I've never really dealt with a GP9 from Proto. I've worked on other Proto stuff, of course, but so you see there's no relief cut in this frame right here to get those wires out once you retrieve the speaker. Now you see the speaker's already loose. That falls right out. But what I had to wind up doing was I had to get in here, lift up on these clips, and actually pull the wires out of this plug to get everything through. And I'm going to try my best to do this on camera. I might need to lift my camera up a bit here. First things first, just that way I remember what wire goes on what side. So you guys can see I have like a dark purple, bluish wire. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Sharpie, little mini tip Sharpie here, and make a black dot on the side that the black wire goes in. So now I don't have to worry about what wire goes where and flip-flopping them. I don't think it would really matter, honestly, just because it is the speaker. It should make sound regardless of which way those are, but just in case they don't, then we don't want that to be an issue. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a good angle on this. So, you can use a couple different things. I have these really nice fine tip picks. These are actually pretty sharp. Really nice tools to have. I have a whole pick set. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to get underneath here and pry that up. I am sorry if my camera goes in and out of focus a little bit. And I can just kind of tweak that up. I don't want to break it. And I did not get it enough. Sometimes if you can tweak them up and they will spring back, but oh, there we go. I was able to get that one. So that little raised up piece right at the top is what locks that right behind this little plastic keeper. All you have to do is lift up on that plastic keeper enough to let that fall free. Because you guys can see how I pull on that, and you guys can actually see it locking up against that. So all you have to do, and you can also use a knife too. A knife, a little X-Acto knife underneath there works. It is a very, very tight system. I am sorry if this is out of focus. Big thing is you don't want to break them. You want to make this quick, pull them. You guys can see how there's a kind of tweaked up. Just kind of push them back into place, and then when you slide your wires back in, those will lock back in. So now these little ends fit down through that little hole. That is the biggest headache that I've come across on swapping some of the stuff out here. You guys can see I can try to tilt back down here. Literally just tilt that out, clear the shaft because the drive shaft is kind of in the way down there, and then carefully, you don't want to yank them because you don't want to have to resolder those to your speaker. Now of course they do want to kind of get tangled up and fight with each other. You just kind of orient them where they will go through. It's such a tiny hole, and I know that's exactly what they had to do. I'm sure they probably put the wires through and then put those on before, after the speaker's already in, but I don't want to fool around with taking those little things off because they're very delicate. And then there we go. So that's a headache, but then I have my speaker and my wires now. Something I found out on the other frame is they actually allowed for that. They got wise, and so now I'm done with that frame. We'll set that aside. And then now we have my DC newer frame that we're going to swap over. Now when pulling these off, use your fingers and your thumbs, lift on this part, and then lightly wiggle back and forth on here. Boy, that's really not in focus. You don't want to go too crazy. Just implement some lift on the pin side, and then that pops right off. Now I'm going to wait until I'm done to put that back in place, just that way any fooling around I'm doing here doesn't affect anything, because I am going to have to release the screws and let the panel up so I can run the speaker wire under. Speaker port's right there, but I need access to underneath here. And running the wires is kind of a pain in the butt because they don't like to go in and lay into the areas all the time. So I'm just going to leave that as is. We're going to slide this over. I'm going to pull this nasty 3M tape off of here. This stuff's so sticky and just messy. You guys can see how nasty that stuff is. It holds good one time. So here, if that'll focus, you guys can see, that does not want to focus, why not? There we go. They actually channeled that out so that way you can put those wires together and then loop them in there. Pretty nice. I like seeing stuff like that because that means these companies are learning on what's a shitty task to do. So when the people are putting speakers in these frames in the factory, they don't want to put the wires through that little hole and then hook everything up. They want that plug to already be on there, this whole speaker thing already ready to go, and then just slip them through there. So now I need a smaller screwdriver because the fucking screws are a different size. Of course, nothing's ever the same. Even though it's the exact same, it's never the same. Different size screws on these smaller screws. So I do have to maintain all my same screws. Now luckily the speaker housing is already ready to go on these. Nothing I have to modify. Try to get that out of there. You guys can see the speaker housing comes free. And this is another reason why we have to kind of get that panel out of there so that way I can get these wires off and allow all that to freely move. Now you guys can see our speaker housing there. And one thing I am going to do is I'm going to put my plugs back in since I don't have to worry about that on this side. And we'll start with the black wire. Make sure you're putting the top in right. You guys can see that little teeny kick out right there. That's what's locking that in. That's what you want to do. Make sure I'm facing this upright. I know I just remember which way was upright because it's self-explanatory. And then very carefully slide that back in. And now you guys can see that's locked back in place. So it's a little bit of a headache, but if you have some tiny tools, patience, and steady hands, it's doable. If you guys are ever doing anything like this, not saying that you're ever going to do anything like this, but if somebody does, hopefully this video helps them. So now there's my whole speaker setup put back together. My black wire is on the side with the black dot, so I know those wires are facing or in the right configuration. Tilt this back up and kind of clear some of that stuff out of my way. And you simply just have to slide that back into place. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put these wires in this channel first, because it is a little tight. So there you guys can see I have the wires into that channel. And I'm going to have to kick the top back out. Try to keep those wires in that channel as I'm doing this. There we go. Speaker has to drop in from the top because of the the shaft. And then, whoops, and they come out. That's all right. Like I said in past videos, patience. Gotta have patience. Things ain't always gonna go how you want them to go. I did not have trouble with this on the other one. I don't remember how I got away with that on the last one so easy. Let's see here. Just trying to tuck those wires back into that. There we go. Because I want them to be captured in there. And then make sure the speaker is pressed back into place. Don't press too hard, just enough to get that back in there. And then cover plate can go back in there. And then it's hard to see, but right at the top of this hole right here, there's just a little bit of casting that helps trap those screws, or that screw on that side. So I'm actually going to lay this down where you guys can't really see it too much, just that way I can get the screws to drop in the hole. Try to get that one. Got that one. So now, of course, I'll kind of tighten those up a little bit better, just to make sure they're good and snug. Because there are little dimples on this that help. Kind of, that's awesome camera work right there. So we'll get these screwed back in nice and tight. Make sure they are good and snug, because you don't want that coming loose and rattling around. So there we go. So that was the hard part. Just retrieving the speaker from that other frame is quite the headache. So now, kind of tuck these wires down into there. Now I am going to tape over all that. You guys saw I did some retaping on the other frame, but I need this. Try to center this up a little bit better for you guys. I need these wires to go down in here, and then, because basically these wires are all held in place by the screw posts down here in the frame. These here. And there's another one on the other side that you guys can't see too well. But basically just trying to tuck all that as we close that up at the same time. Now, yes, I could tape all that up a little bit nicer underneath there, but there's no really need to do that. Just make damn sure that you're not pinching wires when you go to put those screws in. Check all your sides, make sure, wiggle the panel around, make sure you're fully seated, because the last thing you want to do is pinch one of those wires bad enough to where it cuts into it. So then 3 screws going back in here. Like I said, before you tighten that down, make damn sure those wires are not pinched, and make sure that any wires that you want tucked under there are tucked in, because you really don't want a bunch of wires floating all over the place when you go to put the shell on. Make sure that's tight. And then we have, the only thing that we have to plug in right now is the speaker, right in the speaker port. And they can only plug in one way. they have, and this video is more for people that haven't done this stuff. A lot of you guys probably have. There's these little sliders right here, and you can see that those are more towards the top of that little housing right there. So you want those to be more at the top of your plug-in. If your plug's upside down, one, it's not going to fit too well, but if you try to cram and jam that in there because you think you have it right, you're going to mess up your pins in there. So always take your time and make sure you're facing stuff the right way. And there we go. Super easy, other than the speaker wires themselves. Now I know I have a little extra speaker wire there to kind of pull that around. Like I said, the couple of these wires are going to be on the sides, but you really don't want too much on the sides because that is a tight fit with the shell. This here is for the warning beacon. That's what that is flopping around there. So now, all that's done, we can take our DCC component and simply plug it back in, or plug it in. And there we go. That frame has DCC and sound now. And it's all brand new, unrun, unused parts. Now, one thing I am going to do is I don't want this nasty sticky tape in there anymore, and I have to retape stuff anyway. And there's better tapes out there to use. I would suggest using them. I tend to just use this Tamiya, however you want to say it, painter's tape. And yes, I don't have a pair of scissors with me, or I would use those instead of my snippers, but it works. I just want to make sure everything gets taped down nicely. I'm going to do 2 rows of tape over this, and then this tape here is still on and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere, so I'm just going to leave that. I'm not going to worry about that. And you want to make sure you make good lengths, so that way you're completely wrapping around nice and tight. Making sure all of those wires... One thing I like about this tape, it's thin. So you can use it in thinner areas and it won't bother the shell fitment. Alright, now I've tested this frame. It works, so we're going to test this frame now that you guys actually get to see a little live action here. I would like to make sure that's working. So we will come up, put this on the track. Now these decoders work like really early on my old controller here, so the second I put power to it, it's going to go through the startup sequence, and then it's going to start moving once it reaches the end of that. So we see our headlight LED and our 2 number board LEDs are working, so that's good. And then our warning beacon light, you guys can see, is flashing there. You guys hear the speaker. We have sound. Revs up, and off she goes. So now I know that whole frame is good. Everything works. I'm just going to shut that off. So now both of these units have a new motor, new wheels, new gearboxes, new panels. The only thing that is from The original run, as you guys saw, is the DCC panel itself and the speaker. Everything else is from the newer run after that run, so it's all stuff that's going to last a nice long time. And if I ever do need spare parts, I got spare parts. So, but it'll be a long time before I need that stuff. So, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Sorry stuff wasn't always in focus, but showed a little bit more on how to swap some stuff over on these, and that'll be it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and until next time, take care.